Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar, the Developer Advantage Autonomous Database Under the Covers. Thank you for joining us. My name is Tara Van Cleve and I am a Marketing Event Manager for the Developer Initiative here at Oracle. Today, we're excited to take a deep dive into the technology stack used to deliver Oracle Autonomous Database and how it can free you from having to worry about many of the most difficult implementation challenges in developing a large-scale mission-critical solution. We'll also be recording the session, and you'll receive the recording via the same email that you registered with. If you have any questions during the webinar, please drop them in the Zoom chat and Zoom Q&A areas, and we will be ready to help answer them. We've also set up a channel in our developer public Slack called Oracle Autonomous Database that you can access at the QR code or at bit.ly/odevrel_Slack. We'll leave the channel open after the event to contact us directly with any questions and to share resources. Today's webinar will be presented by Herman Viscuso, Director of Developer Community. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Herman.
Thank you, Tara, for the introduction. So welcome to this session, and thank you for joining. I'm very glad to be here to help developers in their journey towards using Oracle database services, specifically autonomous database. I think it has multiple advantages, and it's very easy to use, very straightforward, and there is basically no easier way to actually provision a full-blown Oracle database like in the cloud and get up and running really quickly. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. My name is Herman Viscuso, and I'm PM and Director of Community Management in the Autonomous Database team. And I'm usually do a lot of these type of presentations with the main focus on helping out developers get started and get up and running. All right. So first of all, we will have a demo after some slides. So this is not a slide-heavy presentation, but basically it's more hands-on towards the end with the demo. And these are the requirements that you should have in mind if you want to follow along, if you want to try out things with me. I think that's a good there's a good possibility that you can do that, especially if you already have configured the OCI CLI, okay? Because that would be the step where we need to do like configuration, because once you have an account within OCI, it's super straightforward to go and create a free, an always free autonomous database. But configuring the CLI, it's basically connecting the OCI CLI, which is the command line in your own local machine, to that OCI tenancy, okay? So we will be using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. The always free tier is enough for this, so we don't need to be paying anything in the OCI in the Oracle Cloud, because sometimes you are in the free tier and you have a few $100s available to use. But if you have reverted back to always free and you have $0 right now, you can do this demo with me, because we will be using the always free database, autonomous database. You have to take into account that if you are in always free right now, you can have up to 2 autonomous databases. You cannot have more than 2. So if you have 2 right now, go ahead and delete one if you want to follow along, okay? So the OCI CLI, this is how I installed the OCI CLI. Some people use Brew. For example, if you're on Mac and you are familiar with Brew, or if you're in Linux and you have a specific package manager, depending on your distribution, you can go ahead and install it via those channels. But I like to use this one because this one gets me the very last version from GitHub, and then I run OCI setup config. And as I mentioned before, when you run OCI setup config, you enter an interactive mode that basically asks you for a lot of information and asks you to connect to the OCI tenancy that you have. Okay, so it's not difficult at all. It's basically a guided setup. And then, in order to show you how you can basically develop and manage autonomous databases and also query autonomous databases from the IDE, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. There are other plugins, like for example, we have for Eclipse, we have for NetBeans, and we also have for example, for full-blown Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code. But I think that Visual Studio Code nowadays is super popular, and we are all using it, right? So I will show you how to use the Oracle Developer Tools extension. I'm running the very latest Visual Studio Code version, okay, and the very latest version of the extension. All right. So some background. I have to give you some background to basically tell you, what are the advantages, and then we can go ahead and do that demo that I mentioned before. So let's consider the evolution of application architectures. I've been around for a while, right? I've been, building systems like many years ago, right? And when I was studying at university, everybody was talking about, hey, this is like a monolithic legacy architecture. It has three tiers. You have the interface, you have the business layer, and then you have the data access. And that's how we built systems at that time. We were thinking about three specific layers, and we were separating that functionality and sometimes testing, differently. But we were not like cloud ready at the time. Basically, you would deploy the systems in companies where the servers were in the companies. It was everything on premise, and you would just have teams focusing on the UI, another team focusing on the business data with a lot of business people involved, another team focusing on the data access, and maybe DBAs also working with having the data ready, et cetera, et cetera. And the systems had issues, right? We entered the cloud era, which is the second icon that I have here. And when we entered the cloud era, that was the rise of the internet. We started moving to the cloud, but still the systems were not mature. Basically, it started with putting VMs in the cloud and basically replicating everything that was happening during the monolithic era, but putting that in the cloud. So a lot of the same problems kept happening, okay, when we moved to the cloud. But now we are dealing with a different kind of scenario. We're dealing with cloud native, platforms, and we are dealing with event-driven platforms. And we are talking about microservices here. We saw this evolution, where people want to develop and deploy microservices, and MSA stands for microservice architecture. So most of the modern applications that are running today, they are using microservices, and they're running on containers, for example, and they are developed using DevOps processes and tools. But in the last few years, we have seen also the rise of serverless. You might have heard about serverless, a serverless approach, serverless, a lot of services just basically calling themselves serverless. And there's a whole movement, like a whole philosophy, for going serverless. Developers which promote serverless, they do not want to do any operational work as far as the underlying infrastructure is concerned. And they want to have this basically abstract anything that has to do with the infrastructure, and they want to work with events and be done with events. EDA means event-driven architecture. So one thing we can observe in any of these architectures, monolithic, cloud-based, cloud-native, event-driven architectures, etc., is that there is a database behind the curtains. This obviously goes from more abstracted to less abstracted, depending on what we are talking about, depending on how we follow this evolution. But it always has been and will always be a part of the application architecture. So we cannot get rid of the database. What we can do is basically abstract it, or maybe use different kind of APIs, et cetera, but the data we have to store, right? And we have to be able to access. So as we move from a traditional approach to a more modern, cloud native approach, event-driven approach, we are, what are some of the data challenges that we see here when we moved to this, new way of building applications? So one of the challenges that I wanted to mention today that I think is really important is, the database per service problem, or the database per service dilemma, okay? So we are working with different microservices, for example, and depending on what the microservices are independent, you might have completely different teams working on a specific microservice. You might have a team that basically decides which database they want to use for that specific use case or that specific microservice, and they go with a specific database. They might go with, I don't know, with like a document store, for example, to give you an idea. There's another microservice, same company, and they decide to go with spatial because they are dealing with spatial information, et cetera, et cetera. So you start having like this zoo of multiple databases, different technologies, different security approaches, different maintenance, schemas or basically procedures, different knowledge that you need to have for each one of these databases, and you end up with multiple database types, depending on what each specific microservice wants to use. Okay, so this is a big issue. This adds complexity to the architecture because you end up maintaining multiple, database technologies. You have to understand and have experience with each one of these. If you are part of a team, or if you are part of the company dealing with this, there are different ways of doing data ingestion, data integration, data propagation. The management is different, the security is different. So this complexity in the management and deployment of these databases comes with a cost. It's not free. So one of the advantages of autonomous database is that it is using the Oracle Converge architecture behind the curtain. So it basically allows you to handle multiple data types of different pluggable databases, or PDBs. You might have heard of the Oracle Pluggable Database Architecture. And in my opinion, one of the most innovative, technologies in the Oracle database. So the idea was to say, hey, let's have a container database, which is something that we can manage as a whole, maybe do maintenance, maybe do patches, maybe do security as a whole. But let's have different pluggable databases in that container database. And now each one of these pluggable databases can be optimized for specific data types. Because as you know, if you consider the Oracle Converge database, you can deal with multiple data types. You can have an Oracle database handling JSON seamlessly, handling graph, handling key value, handling relational, obviously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have all these databases handling multiple data types behind specific microservices, then when it's time to admin, when it's time to gathering the knowledge that you need to basically do the proper admin of this, doing the security and doing most of the lifecycle maintenance procedures, then you have one single thing that you need to deal with. You don't need to deal with the zoo of the multiple different databases. So why autonomous? In autonomous, we took the Converge database because we wanted autonomous to be able to handle multiple data types. You can go ahead today to the OCI console and create an autonomous transaction processing instance, which is specifically optimized for transaction processing. You can create an ADW, an autonomous data warehousing instance, which is specifically tuned for data warehousing. It's actually the same technology, but it's been optimized for specific data types. Or you can create an autonomous JSON database, AJD, if you want to handle documents. Okay, so it's the same autonomous database, but optimized for specific workloads and for specific data types. So we combine the Converge database with cloud native. We placed it in the cloud so it can be very easy to provision, self-service basically. But also the fact that it's in the cloud and the fact that it's in the OCI cloud, it's in the Oracle cloud, it's not in any cloud, means that every time you provision an autonomous database, it is running on top of Exadata machines. Okay, it's running on top of the Oracle Exadata infrastructure. And that is a big deal. And that is a big deal because Exadata is let's say the fastest underlying infrastructure for running an Oracle database. So you cannot get something better than that. You cannot get better performance out of any bare metal out there aside from Exadata. So every time you provision an autonomous database in just 1 minute, there's an Exadata behind it that will be running your database. And that is a big deal in my opinion. But we did not stop there. We took Converge database, we took the best of cloud, and we brought in machine learning into the mix. Why machine learning? Because we don't want to be distracted by all the maintenance of the database. But everything that you have to do, basically everything that DBAs have to do behind the curtains. And as a developer, you just want to build the application. You don't want to be doing any of these things. So machine learning helps you do self-tuning, self-securing, self-patching. A lot of the hard work's being done for you automatically. So that's autonomous database, and we think is the database technology for the 21st century. This is basically something that's going to change your life if you are building applications that connect directly to the database or microservices that need to rely on data store. Okay, so I mentioned automatic, and a lot of things are happening thanks to artificial intelligence. Okay, or machine learning. Automatic tuning. You suppose that you need to create an index. You don't need to create an index. It's basically being created for you depending on usage. So when the database determines that a specific index would be useful, it gets created for you. Scaling. Suppose that you're running out of CPUs assigned to the database. You can auto schedule 3x automatically. And this automatic scaling basically goes down again to the normal CPU allocation automatically when the workload doesn't need it anymore, right? So it's completely automatic for you. Now, updating and patching. Imagine a system that can always be in the latest security patch without you even thinking about it. Okay. So we have more and more. I don't want to basically burden you with all of this, but it's basically anything that can be automated is automated, and we still give you control, because when you are working with autonomous database on dedicated Exadata infrastructure, there are a lot of controls that you can basically fine tune and tweak. So it's not that you cannot do anything about tuning, but basically you can still do a lot, but you can leave the system administer itself to give you the best performance. All right, so the underlying infrastructure, okay? The underlying infrastructure. I mentioned that an autonomous database is running on top of the Exadata infrastructure. So if you consider the Exadata infrastructure, within one of these boxes, you can have multiple autonomous VM clusters. So it's basically the VM, right? So the VM is the compute that is going to enable those database services to run for you, okay? So the VM can have multiple container databases, and the container is what I mentioned before. So it's basically a container database that can host multiple pluggable databases. They used to be called in the traditional Oracle pluggable database architecture CDB, the container database. We call them ACDs, autonomous container databases. Okay. Now within one ACD, you can have multiple pluggable databases or multiple autonomous databases. And here you can see them as ADBs, ADB1, ADB2, ADB3 within one container. So you can have as many as you want, depending on resources, obviously. And if you deploy, we're going to create autonomous databases today. We're going to create an autonomous database serverless deployment version. So the serverless version basically gives you one ADB here in this picture. You get one ADB every time you create an autonomous database serverless. And the rest is created or used automatically for you. So you don't provision a container, you don't provision a VM, you don't provision an Exadata infrastructure. That is transparent for you. With autonomous database dedicated, which is the dedicated deployment, you have the control to actually provision all of this, and you have to provision all of this. So you will provision your own Exadata infrastructure in the cloud. So you can say, hey, create an Exadata for me. And that's basically a real Exadata behind the curtains, but now you have a vision of that Exadata that you can administer in the OCI cloud. You will create an VM inside the Exadata infrastructure. You will create an autonomous container database inside the Exadata infrastructure, and you will create the autonomous database instance. So you can imagine that you have full control over the whole database stack, from the hardware, so from the Exadata infrastructure all the way up to the autonomous database. Okay, so up to you, your choice. Whether you want to get the whole stack for you, or you want just the database instance. All right. So most of you are developers, right? So if you have to develop with autonomous database today, you have multiple options. And if you're a Java developer, you might be familiar with JDBC, for example. There's a JDBC thin client that you can use, but there are a whole bunch of bindings or drivers. Sometimes I use those words interchangeably. They're not the same. But basically, you have a lot of this, libraries or bindings or drivers that you can use to connect to autonomous database. So a lot of them are connecting to what we call the Oracle call interface, which is our low level interface for connecting to databases. And obviously, this covers autonomous database because the autonomous database is an Oracle database behind the curtains. So, and then you have others that can connect using the Oracle Database Programming Interface for C, which is a wrapper on top of the OCI. And OCI here is not Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It's basically the Oracle Code Interface. So this is a different OCI, okay? So when you develop one of these drivers, for example, the Python one or the Go one, and you use the Oracle Database Programming Interface for C, it's easier. The implementation is easier than when you use the Oracle Core Interface. Today, during the morning, and you might want to take a look at that later, I delivered a session on how to connect from Rust. You can see Rust Civil there and Rust Oracle there. Two different approaches to basically connecting to the Oracle database, but very similar in functionality. So you can go ahead. We might be able to take a look at some of the code today, just very quickly. You can go and create a Rust program that connects to the Oracle, to the autonomous database, to the Oracle autonomous database. All right. So this is to give you an idea. Everything in red here is provided by Oracle and is proprietary. Everything in white is provided by Oracle, but it is open source. Okay. And anything in black or in dark font is basically third-party open source drivers, right? Maintained by the community. All right. So we're almost there. We're getting very close to the demo. And in the demo, I wanted to show you how to provision and how to query an autonomous database from the Oracle Developer Tools for VS Code. So this tool is great, in my opinion, because it allows you to edit and execute SQL. So you can run, once you connect, it allows you to do SQL. You get auto-completion of that SQL. You get code snippets. It's really nice, but you also get the lifecycle support. We can delete a database. We can create a database. So we have the opportunity to actually create the autonomous database from the IDE, which I think is really cool. So if you want a quick start, you can follow the link there at the bottom of this page. And what does the configuration of this looks like? Because we are not going to go through the configuration. The configuration is 0, okay? You don't have to do anything. What you have to do is have the OCI CLI configured. The Oracle Developer Tools for VS Code will just read the configuration of your OCI CLI. It will look for the .oci folder in your home directory, and it will just use those the config file that is inside to actually give you access to your tenancy. So you don't have to configure anything once you install this plugin or this extension, but make sure that you have the OCI CLI configured. And for that, we can go back, just a very quick refresher here. You can go back here, and you can run two commands in your Linux or in your Mac machine. So basically this bash command and then the OCI setup config, which basically will walk you through the configuration of the OCI setup. So that's all you need. Okay, let's start the demo. So I'm going to finish presentation mode. I'm going to show you the OCI console, and in the OCI console, you can see that I am in the free tier account. You are using the free tier account, so that's all we need. The free tier account is free forever, so you can have your 2 autonomous databases forever for free. So I'm going to click here on autonomous databases, and I'm going to show you that I have one that I have terminated because I ran a webinar this morning. So this one I terminated, and I have one available already. there, okay? So I could just go ahead and do create here and create it from this screen, and basically create a data warehouse, an ADW, an ATP, a JSON, or an Apex version. I can choose whether this is serverless or dedicated, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so we are going to create a transaction processing one, but we are going to do it from the IDE, from Visual Studio Code. But one thing that I wanted to show you here is that we are in the always free version. We are going with serverless, which is the easiest one to provision. It provisions in under 2 minutes, which is very convenient for a demo, because in 2 minutes we have the instance. And also that we are using Oracle 19c behind the curtains. You can also choose 21c, but I'm just going to go with 19c. And what is it that we have to provide in terms of authentication? We need to provide the admin password. So if you're familiar with Oracle database, you might have heard about the sysdba or sys role. So the equivalent in autonomous database is admin. You will have to provide the password here for admin, and admin will allow you to do anything in the database. So we are going to provide the password, and then authentication. For authentication, if you're using the always free tier, you only have one choice, which is using a wallet-based authentication. So we will have to basically create the database and then download the wallet to be able to access it, because this is wallet-based authentication. If you are on the free trial instead of the free tier, or you are basically a paying customer of OCI, you can basically choose other authentication methods. Like, for example, you could go with TLS, which is not mutual TLS, which does not require wallet-based authentication, and basically takes out all the burden of basically downloading the wallet, etc. It is secure in any case, to have the wallet downloaded, because it's basically verified on every single connection. Okay, so that's all you need to provision. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Visual Studio. So in Visual Studio, I'm going to show you the plugins. I have a whole bunch of plugins here that I installed for Rust, because I've been doing like a Rust session this morning. So to give you an idea, this is Rust code that runs the SQL. We can take a closer look later, but basically I wanted to show you that if I scroll down, one very important installed extension that I have here is the Oracle Developers Tools for Visual Studio Code. So you can search for it in the list of extensions. It's publicly available. It's been downloaded almost 500,000 times already. And when you enable it, it will read the OCI CLI config, and it basically show you a new icon here in the bottom, which is a cylinder, which looks like a database. And we'll show you this, right? So you will see this Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and your tenancy, which is taken from the config file in the .oci folder. So if you, for example, let's do this. I'm going to show you the OCI the OCI directory, and you can see here that we have the config, and also that we have the API key for authenticating versus the OCI console, okay, or the OCI tenancy. So in this config will get generated once you do OCI setup config. I'm not going to run it right now, I just wanted to see it. OCI setup config. You hit enter, you will get asked a whole bunch of questions. You will get asked to create like a key, an authentication key in your tenancy, etc., etc. You will go ahead, just follow the steps, and you will end up with a config file here. And this is what's being read by the Visual Studio Code extension. Okay, so once you get the extension, you will see this. You will see that autonomous transaction processing, autonomous data warehouse, etc. And if I just do drop down here, you will see that I have this ATP session, and it's also showing me the one that's been terminated. Here, it's in red. So basically, that's the one that I showed you here. Let me just go back here, that it says terminated, right? This is shown in red here. All right. So let's go ahead and just right-click here in autonomous transaction processing because I want an autonomous transaction processing instance. And let's hit on create new. Okay. All right. So right now we are seeing this screen, which is similar to the one that I showed you before in the OCI console, but but now we are sitting in the IDE. And I really like this because I'm able to work with autonomous database from the IDE. And then if I just click here, I can go ahead and develop, basically develop a RAS application that connects to this database. I think that's really, really nice. So I'm going to, the display name and the database names are suggested already. So I'm just going to say, I don't know, let's say session for the session. I'm going to click always free because my tenancy is always free. If I don't do this, I won't be able to create it because I'm in an always free tenancy right now. I'm going just to keep 19C. Everything is pre-selected for me because I'm choosing always free. And I'm just going to fill in the password that I mentioned before. We saw this in the web screen too. It's basically the admin password. So I'm going to do, okay. Let's see. Okay. Secure access from everywhere. This is wallet-based authentication. So I'm going to do create autonomous database. And you can see here that says database creation has started. And if you just do this, you say database creation has started, blah, 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 blah. So let's wait 2 minutes. In the meantime, we can keep talking. Let's wait 2 minutes for it to be deployed so we can actually connect to it. If we go to, if you take a look here, you will see that it's in yellow. So the one that is provisioning right now is in yellow. The one that has been terminated is in red. And one that is up and running is just, it has no sign. All right, so let's go to the web page and see if it's here. So as you can see, it is provisioning. And it is the one that we just created, and it's an always free database. Okay, so just in the meantime, while we create it, because we will have to download the wallet, as I mentioned before, right? So, but we need to provision to download the wallet. Let me take one that it's available right now. And let me show you something very interesting that I think we will have the opportunity to see. Basically, we have all the settings here. You can see, a lot of whole bunch of details about the database, when the maintenance is going to kick in, when is the next maintenance, how backups are happening, whether you have enabled disaster recovery because you can use autonomous data guard. We cannot do that because it's always free. It's the most basic one. But if you have a real, full-blown autonomous database, you can enable disaster recovery, have a primary, basically do failovers, etc., automatically for you in the cloud. One of the things that I wanted to show you while we wait for the provisioning is database actions. Database actions is very, very useful. So you can go to database actions and basically say, hey, I want to run SQL over this database, okay? So you click there on database actions,
and you enter the admin role and the password that we have created for the admin role in the autonomous database.
okay? And I'm going to do sign in. All right, I'm not saving. And as you can see, it's basically showing me the tables. So I have placed tables here in this database before. We are going to do this today with the other one, the one that is provisioning right now. But basically, we are here. We have a table. We can just right click and we say, hey, open it. And I can take a look at the shape. I can click on data. And I can actually get the data for the table. So this is very similar to SQL Developer. If you're familiar with SQL Developer, this is basically SQL Developer web version. Okay, we can add an index. We can. This is very interesting. We can enable REST on this table, so we can create a REST API in one click, just by clicking enable here, and we have appified this general table. Okay, data loading, quick DDL, etc., etc. Okay, so let's go back. Let's close this. Let's go back to see if it has been created. So database instance session created successfully, okay? So this is usually right under 2 minutes for the creation, which is really good. And now you can see that the yellow is gone and the session has been created. So let's close this. Let's close this. And let's just right click on this database that we just created, which is session. And let's click on create connection in Database Explorer, okay? We want to create a connection in Database Explorer. So one thing that I haven't, I have had some issues here because you can, according to the functionality of the plugin, you can download the wallet to this directory here. You can change it, obviously, and you can specify the password right here, because when you go and try to download a wallet, the wallet will ask you for a password. You need to set up a password for the wallet, right? So we've been talking about two different passwords, and these ones are different. One is the admin password for the database, which is to basically use the database, and the other one is the password for the wallet. Every time you download a wallet, you need to set up a password, okay? So we can try to do it from here, but I have had issues downloading. Basically, the download doesn't end and stays like that, trying to download the wallet, etc., etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download manually from the web, and then I'm going to say what the directory is for the wallet locally here, okay? So I'm going to basically replace the automatic functionality here with, you know, a manual download of the wallet. But it should be basically the same thing. I'm not sure if I'm hitting a bug here or what is going on, but basically the download doesn't end, right? So I'm going to go here to the database. Let's not take a look at the one that was already created, but the one that we created. Start with session, okay? And now I'm going to click on database connection, okay? Database connection. And I'm going to say, okay, I want an instance wallet, and I want to download that wallet. And this wallet will enable you to do MTLS, mutual TLS. Download, when I click on download, voila, we are asked for a password, okay? I'm going to use the same password just for the sake of, you know, simplicity, but you shouldn't. You should use a different password for the wallet, which is the connection authentication, than for the admin, which is the database authentication for a specific role, okay? So I set up the password, and I'm going to click on download. So I basically get a zip file, right? So let me take a look at the, I'm not going to save here. Take a look at, so it's DB 2023, okay? And because I have several downloads, and it ends with 1732, okay? So now I'm going to go to the downloads, and I'm going to show you that the file is here in my downloads. So as you can see, it says wallet, and then the database name, which ends in 1732, 1732. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically copy the zip file, and I'm going to place it in my home OCI folder. You don't have to place it there. You can place it wherever you want, as long as you point to that directory. But I like to place my wallets in the .oci folder. So let me see if I can see it. Yeah, there you go. 1 sec, okay. So that's it. OCI. I'm going to drop it here, paste item, and I'm going to uncompress it, okay? Unzip it. Going to delete this. Okay. Now I have my wallet here. What's in the wallet? We have a, 1 sec. We have a tsnames.aura, which is very important, and we have a, you know, a SQLnet.aura, which is also important, the key store, etc., etc. There are multiple ways of connecting to this wallet. So depending on the type of wallet-based auth that you need, you can use these files. But let's point the Visual Studio Code to this wallet, okay? So I'm going back to Visual Studio Code, and I'm not downloading the database because of that issue that I mentioned, but I'm saying, hey, this is where you should get the wallet from, 1732. All right. So I'm going to click on OK. And now you can see that the system detected that there's a TS names Aura, and it's going to use it. Now, these TNS profiles are being taken from the TS names of Aura that it's inside the wallet. Okay, low, medium, etc., high. Let's just use high. Okay, this is the wallet location. The role is non-admin. The username is admin. And here I need to place the admin password, not the wallet password, the admin password. Okay. Right. So yeah, I'm using hi. I'm going to click on create connection. Let's see if it works. So as you can see, there's a new connection here that was created, and we have the same database name that ends in 1732. I have another one that I already created for this database, which is one that I've been working on. But my second database, it's a session, the one that we created, we have a connection here. So I click on it because it was in red. That means it's not fully connected, and it is asking me for the password. In this case, it's asking me for the admin password. I'm going to enter it again because I did not save it. Okay. So let's see if it connects. Okay. So we have a connection. Okay. We just went through a full connection from Visual Studio Code to the autonomous database. Now we can expand tables and specifically relational tables. You have relational tables, but we don't have any tables. So nothing is going to show there. So let's fix that. Let's put some tables in there and then just try to query those tables and see how we can access them from this specific screen. So I'm going to go to a live lab. Just let me go here. I'm going to go to a live lab that it can be accessed here. Okay. And we're going to share the link to the live lab later. But if you go to the live lab, it's basically how to put data in the autonomous database from a use case called movie stream. Okay, so you go to lab 3 of this live lab, and what we are going to do is we're going to follow the directions here where it say, hey, go to database actions, authenticate, go to data studio, and let's do a data load. Okay, and in that data load, we're going to choose load data and cloud store because we want to bring, the information from object storage. And this is the link to object storage, and it works, right? So it's there for you. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's choose the database that we created. Let's see if database actions is there, and we have a shortcut here for data load. Okay, so we could just go to see all the database actions in boxes, and we choose data load, but we have a shortcut here. I'm going to click on data load. Let's see if it's asking for the password. Yeah. So admin. Okay, so this is the admin password. All right. All right, so we're going to click on load data and cloud store. Okay, and we're going to click on next. Let's see, there you go, load data from cloud store. We're going to paste that cloud store link here. Okay, and we're going to click on create cloud store location. Let me just go ahead and here. Okay, sorry, it was just clicking enter here. So once we enter the URL, it was just clicking enter just tapping on enter. And now it's basically showing me, hey, I can see in this object store, I can see activity, customer contacts, etc., a whole bunch of data, right? That is living in that object store. And now we're going to just follow the instructions where it says you will select multiple folders. First drag customer contact folder over to the right. So we're going to do that. Customer contact to the right. I'm going to say yes. Do you want to load objects in customer contact folder matching CSV to a single target table? Yes. All right. So we have that one. And then we have, okay, let me see. Perform the same drag and drop steps for genre, sales sample, and pixel allocation. Okay. So we're going to choose, where's the sample? Say sample. Yes. Okay. Its allocation. When it says assign a license, basically trying to determine what the color names are, what the data types are, etc., etc. We can take a closer look at that. You have this where if you go to settings, you can basically see how the data is being mapped. So we have a lot of control over that. All right, genre, sales, sample. Oh, I'm missing genre. Okay. Genre. Okay. Yes. Okay. Pixel allocation, sales sample. Perfect. Click the three-dot ellipsis menu for the customer contact load task. In the pop-up menu, click settings to view the settings for this task. So we're going to take a closer look at the settings right now to see what's going on behind the curtains. And I think data loads are really, really good at basically determining the best for you. So let's go and see that. Settings. So as you can see, it's basically telling me the data types that it's choosing for each column. It's basically telling me I see the source column and I see this, I'm going to use this target column and I'm going to use this data type. I'm going to use this length, etc., etc. I'm going to call the table just like this, etc., etc. You can even preview if you want to see, what the table is going to look like, just in case it doesn't look like what it should, right? So we're going to close here. All right. Okay. If everything looks correct, you can click on close. After doing that preview, new view, now view the settings to say sample task, target table. Let's say, I think that we need to change the name here. So, okay, in this case, update the name of the table to be created to cost sales. Okay, and this is the sales sample. So you can say, for example, okay, sales sample, I don't like the table name. I want to call it cost sales. Okay, and I'm clicking close there. There's no save, but clicking close basically keeps what you just said. As you can see, cost sales is still there, okay? So I think we're ready to go right now. Click close and click start. And when you click start, click run, and you'll basically be doing this data load operation, okay? So let's click on start. Okay, run. And now it's running. We're going to let it run for a while. Okay. And I think that this is going to take like 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do, well, we have customer contact. So let's see if we can see that. Let's refresh here, this connection. There you go. We have the tables, okay? So suppose that we have, let me see if we have customer contact, for example. Now we can say, we see the name of the columns, okay? So let me just, okay. So customer contact, I can say right click, show data. And I have the data here with all the customer contacts. And I can say, for example, generate select SQL with a right click. and I get the select with all the columns, all the column names from customer contact, where customer ID equals number. So specifically, basically craft this. And one thing that is very important is that you need to click. You don't need to click on this first triangle here because this is for running code. You need to click on this second one, which is the circle with the triangle to run the SQL queries. So let me see. So I selected. We haven't specified a number, but I selected the whole query and I click on run. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if there's a customer ID number 1. Let's see if that's available. Okay, seems it's not available. Or we can just do that, just get rid of the where. Okay. Yeah, and get out all the results. But you can basically craft whatever SQL you want here. But you can also do like inserts, etc., from here. All right. So one final thing before we're done and go to the Q&A. I think we'll have like 5 minutes for the Q&A. Another interesting thing is that you can right-click here on session, for example, and you can say start, stop. You can terminate it. If you want to get rid of it, you can change the admin password. If you're not on the always free tier, you can configure connecting via walletless authentication. You can get the connection strings. You can download the files. Well, this is the actually functionality that wasn't working for me. Okay, and you can basically create another connection if you want to do that. Okay, so some lifecycle operations that are actually pretty good, right? You can do this for autonomous transaction processing, which is AD autonomous database for transactions, but also for autonomous data warehousing, for JSON database, etc., etc. Okay, so as a developer, you might want to switch to, for example, to the development side, and you might want to do develop maybe a Rust application that connects to the database. And in this case, let's, for example, try this one that is using Civil. This is a Rust application that is using one of those bindings that I showed you before. And the binding in this case is called Civil. Okay. So Civil allows you to connect to the database. And this is just very straightforward code where you're basically creating a session, okay, Oracle Connect, and you are connecting to the database. And if you take a look, I'm using the same password that I mentioned before, and the same admin. So those are the ones that we set when we created the database. And I'm using one of those basically TNS profiles that are inside the wallet, okay? So basically choose one of those and you will connect. In this case, it's high, okay? And that's it. That's all you need to actually do the connection. How does the system know that where the wallet is? Because this is Rust, this is not Visual Studio Code. You need to export the TNS admin. So then after I click connect on the session, then I need to actually create a SQL, right? So this is select, basically bringing data from that table, cost sales, that we renamed recently. So this is being prepared and passed as a query. So the statement query, and as you can see here, we pass an argument. We want the rows here, right? We want the rows. So here we pass an argument of 5, and this argument goes straight into this variable here, top sales. So we'll get the top 5. Okay. And then we just iterate over the row, the rows. And for those 5 rows that we will get, which is, output the name and the number of sales, the specific genre. So we can go here, for example, let me see. Let's go here. We are exactly in that directory. And let's do cargo run. And I'm going to target x86 because this is an M1 based Mac, and we need Rosetta 2 for that. I covered that during the session today. Rust. I'm going to do cargo run, and we're getting the top 5, elements from that table. So this is one example of how you can connect from one development environment in one language. This could be Python, very similar binding. This could be Go, also very similar binding, etc., etc. And you have both things in the same place, developing and dealing with the autonomous database and doing administration, lifecycle creation, deletion, etc. So okay, so let me just quickly go go to the presentation and just basically tell you that you have multiple ways of doing DevOps with autonomous database. We have Terraform, we have Liquibase, we have connected autonomous to Grafana, we have Jenkins plugins, Ansible is also supported. I have created Prometheus dashboards with running on top of autonomous database. We covered that several times. And that's basically it for me. So let me see. This is the last slide I wanted to show you. If you scan the QR code, I'm not sure it's going to be big enough, but basically you can get to the OCI landing page with always free, etc., etc. And I'm going to do more sessions like the ones that you can see there. Probably going to do another one related to Rust for performance testing of autonomous database connecting from Rust to see how it performs. Okay. So Tara, that's it for me.
All righty. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us here today. We will hop on over to the Slack if you have any further questions. We hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you. Take care.